In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up Excel so that you can get started with a drawing. Once we get it set up, we're going to start out doing a drawing of a house just to give you an idea of how to insert different types of shapes. So the first thing we want to do is select a number of columns that we're going to use to place our drawing in. I'm holding my shift key down. I clicked on the column A over here. If I click on column R, now what I can do is I'm going to drag it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a width of 2 or 19 pixels. You can see that there. And what that does is it makes the squares that I create about equal height and equal width. I'm going to add some more. And again, I want to make those about 2 wide. Okay. So now I've got a grid pattern that I can use to start my drawing. Now that we've got the grid pattern, let's go ahead and insert a shape. We're going to start with the base of the house. So we're going to make sure you've got the Insert tab selected, and then select the Shapes icon here. And we're going to select a rectangle. Now this rectangle, we're going to size. I held my left mouse button down on the upper left hand corner, and I'm dragging to make it about the size that I want. Okay, so I've got a basic shape here. The other thing I'm going to do to help me with my drawing is I'm going to tell it to snap to the grid. And what that means is that it'll snap to these lines. When I move it, it'll bring it to these different lines here. Okay, now let's add a roof. So I'm going to go back to my shapes, and we'll go here, and we'll make a roof. You may have to play with this just a little bit. Notice how when you do this, it's when you set it snap to the grid, it snaps to the next available line. Okay, so now I've got a roof. Okay, let's add a door. So we'll go back here. We're going to get a rectangle. Okay, and there's my rectangle. Now, one of the things that I noticed here is that my door didn't go all the way to the bottom because it's snapping to this line right here. So maybe what we should do is bring this up a little bit so the door and the bottom of the house are at the same level. Again, that snap to the grid helps us. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to change the color of this door here. Okay, so you can pick out any color that you want. I'm just going to pick out, oh, let's see what's here. Let's make the door red so we can see it. Now we want to put a doorknob on, so I'm going to go back here to insert another shape. We'll make a round doorknob, pretty simple. Okay, and we can make that a different color by going to the shape fill. Oh, let's make that doorknob green, and hopefully it won't hold the colors against me here that I use. Okay, so now we've got a basic house that with some basic shapes. We've set up the snap to grid so that it's easier to place the objects on the drawing. Now let's add some windows to our house. What I'd like to do is try a new shape here. We'll use a circle instead, so we'll click on the Insert tab, go to Shapes, and I'm going to grab a circle. And I'm going to make this circle kind of oblong here just to show you an example of how to make that perfectly circular. If you notice here on the Format tab over here to the right, we've got two boxes, one that specify the height and the width of this particular object. So in this case, what I'd like to do is I'd like to make this perfectly round, and the way to do that is I'm going to change this to 0.89 so it's the width and the height are the same. So there's my perfectly round circle. I'm also going to use the shape styles here to select a color for that particular window, and I'll just use a fairly simplistic shape here. So now we've got a window, and you can move that by, if you hold your left mouse button down and click on it, you can move it anywhere you'd like. Okay, and so there's one window. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some cross hatching to this as well. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select the line shape, and notice when I touch the circle, I've got these touch points here. And basically what that's for is if you want to connect one shape to another with a line or something, you can do that. You can just attach it to one of these points. I'm not going to use that feature now. Basically all I want to do is draw a line across the circle. Okay, and what I'd like to do is make that a little bit thicker. So in this particular case, I'm going to go to Shape Outline, I'll go to Weight, and then I'm going to make it, oh yeah, we'll make it 4.5 points so we can see it. And I'm going to change the color. I'm going to go back to Shape Outline. I'll just make that black. Now what I'm going to do, so I get the same type of shape, I'm going to copy that. So I will press my Control key down and type the letter C. Control C is copy, and then a Control V is paste. So now I've got a bar that's very similar to the one I just drew. And what I'm going to do is under the Format tab, I'm going to use the Rotate. I'm going to rotate it right 90 degrees, or I could have rotated it left. It would have had the same result. And I'm using my arrow key to position that on the window. So if you notice, you can move it around and however you like. I'm going to click off to the side here. Now you see I've got a window that looks pretty good for the most part. If I was designing a house, I probably wouldn't want a house with that design in it. But anyhow, now what I'd like to do is I'd like to group these all together. So I'm going to hold my Control key down and click on each one of those items. And then I'm going to go up here to Group and click Group. Okay, now my window is one group, and the advantage that has is now what I can do is copy that window, because I want to take that window and put it over on the right hand side too. So I'm going to do a Control C and then a Control V, and then we'll just move that over here. Okay, now I'm going to put this down here out of line, because what I want to show you is another feature of Excel. You can align these. So I'm going to hold my Control key down and select this window. And up here again, we're under the Format tab. I'm going to align top. And notice how it aligns it with this particular window right here. Now what I'd like to do is show you how to use the curve shape to put a sidewalk in front of the house. I don't want just a straight sidewalk. I'd like a little bit of curve to it. So we'll show you how to use that. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to zoom out here a little bit using the scroller here down at the bottom. Okay, so it gives me a little bit more room to draw my sidewalk. I'm going to go back to Insert and then go back to Shapes, and I'm going to use the curve shape here. I click on that. Now I'm going to position my cursor right here by the door. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down, and then I'm going to draw a line, and then I'm let go of my mouse button, and I click, click, click. Okay, and if I double click now, it'll terminate the drawing. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this line just a little bit thicker so my sidewalk looks a little bigger. And we go to the Shape Outline, go back to the Weight, and then we can do a weighting like that. Okay, that's one side of the sidewalk. Let's go get the other side and click, click, click. Okay, now one of the features that I think is handy is to use the paintbrush or paint roller, if you will. And what I'm going to do is I want to copy the format of this particular line that I drew earlier. So I clicked on it, and I'm going to go to the Home tab, and notice right here we've got a format painter, not a paintbrush. Okay, so if I click on it and then click on this line, it makes it the same way there. Okay, so now what we can do is we can draw some lines on this sidewalk to show, most sidewalks normally have cracks in them, or control cracks I should say. So we'll just do something like that, and Now I'm going to format these and make them a little bit thicker. Holding my control key down, I can select all of them. Actually, let's try that paintbrush feature or format painter. So let's grab this curve here, go to home, click on the paintbrush. Okay, there we can. Okay. Now, if I want to turn this paintbrush, if I double click the paintbrush, it'll stay on. And then I can click multiple objects here, and I'll just click it off again. Okay, so there's my sidewalk. You can see I didn't do a very good job of connecting these, but you can go back and make these longer and so on. And it has to do with the fact that I snapped it to the grid. So anyhow, there it is. Not that great of a looking picture, but you get the idea. One of the things we'd like to do is to make this an engineering drawing, and the way we'll do that is just to add some dimensions to it. So I'm just going to show you how to add one dimension, but this is something that may be important if you're trying to replicate this particular house. So let's zoom in a little bit. We'll put a dimension on the side of the house here. I'm going to have to scroll up here just a little bit. Let's and let's put a dimension right here. Let's say that's 10 feet high. Okay, so we're going to go to Insert, and I'm going to use um, the text box. So we'll take that, and I will put that right here. Okay, and let's say that's 10 feet. Okay, now I'm going to click on the outside of this, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to center it in the middle of the box, and you can do that with this alignment function on the home tab. And I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger by clicking on this. Okay, and that was probably too big because now I can't see the. Okay, so there I can see the feet. Okay, so there's my dimension box. Now what I'll do is I'll add an arrow. So let's go back here to Insert, and there's the arrow right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that arrow and I'm just going to run it right up there to the top. And the fact that I've snapped to the grid makes it much easier. But let's make it that arrow just a little bit thicker. Okay, so there it is. Okay, now we should probably have a little line down here that the bottom arrow can go to. So let's draw our line first. So I'm going to click on Insert, and we'll draw a little line right here. Okay, and what I'll do is we'll go back here to the weight, and okay, so we got a line here. Just going to extend this arrow. Now what I can do is I can copy this arrow. I'm going to do a Control C, Control V. Okay, now you say, well, it's pointed the wrong direction. Well, that's pretty easy to fix. If you point at the dot at the top, I can just rotate this down. Okay, and I'll just bring that over. Now I want to bring it back up to the box here. So there you have it. We've got a dimension on here. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that, I've got a box around this. It's kind of hard to see because you got all these other grid lines. Well, let's just turn the grid pattern off for the moment. If I click on View and then click on Grid Lines, okay, so now what you have is you can see the house in a little bit more definition, okay? And I'm going to move this line over just a little bit so this arrow is more centered. Now I'm going to draw stairs that comes out of the side of the house that we'll use the Freeform shape on. So to give you an idea of how to use another shape form. In this particular case, okay, we're going to go back to the shapes, and it's this little unusual looking character right here. It's called Freeform. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come out here of the side of the house, and we'll just. Now, I didn't do a very good job of that. Let's start that over again. So if I go back to Shapes and go back to the Freeform, and I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to draw a straight line, and every time I click it'll anchor the point. Okay, so we'll anchor it there, 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 there. I can come back here. What I want to do is I want to make this a solid. Okay, so there I have a solid object. Now what I can do is I can color it in. Okay, so there's my stairs. It's basically a way to draw something that has kind of an irregular shape to it. Now what I'd like to do, a couple of things. One is I'd like to add a little bit more definition to my house and my stairs and so on. I'd also like to get rid of this white line here between the house and the stairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my stairs, okay, to select it. I'm going to hold my control key down and I'm going to slide my stairs to the right just a little bit. Okay, now it kind of overlaps the house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and then I'm going to click on send to back. Okay, now what this does is it moves it behind the house. So now I've got a clean edge right there. Now what I like to do also is I like to add an outline to this to give it a little bit more definition. So I'm going to go up here to format, and if I go to shape outline I can give it a different color. So I'm going to make that a kind of a bright orange. We'll do that the same to our roof here. Go to the outline, and oh, let's see what's here. Let's make that a dark color here. And one of the things you can do is you can actually change the weight of it. So if you want to make it a little bit thicker or make it a little heavier, okay, and we'll do the same thing on our, okay, so we've got a little bit more definition. Let's do the same thing to the door. Okay, so we'll go to format, shape outline, and I'll make that a little heavier. Okay, now that was blue. If I wanted to change that outline to a different color, maybe I want to make it black. That's how I do that. Okay, let's do the same thing to the doorknob. Okay, format, outline. Okay, it doesn't show up very well, so let's change the color of it. Oops, that was the shape fill. We want shape outline, and we can make it a light green. So there we go. So there you see how you can make your house stand out a little bit better. The last thing we're going to do here is we're going to do some landscaping for our house. So I'm going to insert some pictures of some bushes. We'll put a lawn in, and we'll also add a tree to it, just to give you a feel for how to go online to find pictures. So click on the Insert tab, and then click on Online Pictures. And what we'll do is we'll search for a bush. Now notice you'll get pictures of George W. Bush, but what I'll do, one of these three bushes might work. So I'll click on it and then click Insert. And really what I'd like is this bush right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop out those other bushes. So I click on crop and just drag this over. We'll drag this down. Okay, so there's our bush. And we'll resize it here by clicking on the drag handles in the corner and make it about the right size. Now if I want to duplicate that bush, I'll hit a Control C, Control V to paste. So now I've got my bushes. Okay, so let's add some greenery to this. Let's add a lawn. So we'll go up and we'll go back to the web and we'll type lawn. And you'll have to use your own creativity here. Here's one I like. It's a lot of green to it, so we'll grab that and we'll make that fairly wide. Now you can't see the house, so let's just put this in the background. So I right clicked on the grass and click send to the back. So now it's behind it. Now notice my sidewalk isn't solid here. When I drew my sidewalk I should have made that solid, but that could be gone back and corrected. I won't do that. The other thing I'm going to do to this grass here is I'd like to show you another thing you can do. I'm going to put an effect on this called soft edges. Soft edges basically allow you to blend your pictures into the background. Notice the soft edges here. So we got the soft edges. I'll make this a little bit wider because we're going to put a tree in here. So let's just type tree. And there we got a nice tree right here. We'll just use that one. And let's make it a little bigger. That's an older tree, so we'll make it taller than the house. So there's a tree. The other thing is these bushes don't blend in, or they blend in too much with the grass, so I'm going to change the color of those. So if I click on it, I can go here to corrections and make them a little bit lighter. There we go. So let's just make that a little bit lighter like that. So that concludes this video tutorial on how to draw using Excel. Good luck with your own project.